Marie Antoinette, Parwam, from Austrian princess to French Dauphine. Born into an empire, destined for another, from a gilded cage in Vienna to the dazzling, dangerous court of France, she was more than just a queen. She was a lightning rod, extravagance, scandal, revolution. Did she ignite the flames? Or was she consumed by them? Discover the untold story that history tried to bury. Stay tuned. You won't believe what's next. Imagine trying to piece together the intimate details of a life lived centuries ago, a life that unfolded within gilded cages and under the relentless scrutiny of a kingdom. How do we truly know the story of someone like Marie Antoinette? Was she the extravagant villain painted by revolutionary fervor, or a more complex figure lost in the currents of history? The answers lie buried within the whispers of time, in fragile letters penned in secret, in the cold pronouncements of royal decrees, and in the biased accounts of those who loved and loathed her. Join us as we embark on a historical quest, sifting through the very fragments of the past, the primary sources, the art that captured her image, the echoes in the grand halls of Versailles, to unravel the truth behind the legend. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew as we delve into the fascinating and often contradictory evidence that brings the story of this iconic queen to life. What secrets will these centuries-old clues reveal? The journey to understanding the real Marie Antoinette is just beginning. Intrigued by the gilded beginnings of this royal saga? If you're already captivated by the drama unfolding in the Habsburg court, show your appreciation with a royal thumbs up. And to ensure you don't miss the next chapter of Marie Antoinette's extraordinary and often scandalous journey through the French court, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Consider yourself officially invited to our inner circle of history enthusiasts. Chapter 1: The Habsburg Childhood. In the searing heart of Vienna, beneath the blazing luminescence of crystal chandeliers within the resplendent Hofburg Palace, the newborn's cry shattered the solemn silence of marble corridors on a biting November morning in 1755. In a nursery draped in opulent tapestries and bathed in shafts of sunlight streaming through high, jewel-encrusted windows, Maria Antonia Josepha Johanna of Austria, destined to be known as Marie Antoinette, took her first ragged breath. More than a delicate infant cradled in a cradle emblazoned with the formidable Habsburg crest, she burst onto the scene as a living symbol of an empire's ambition. As the 15th of 16 children born to the indomitable Empress Maria Theresa and the towering Francis I, Holy Roman Emperor, her arrival was chronicled with feverish detail by noble courtiers who murmured of her fate as a potent weapon in a relentless battle for political might. From that explosive first moment, every stitch of her intricate garments and every measured step within the palace pulsed with unyielding duty and ruthless statecraft. The Habsburg dynasty, as imposing as an ancient, iron-bound oak with sprawling branches reaching into every corner of the empire, treated each child as a vital pillar in their relentless quest for power. Instead of reveling in the simple pleasures of innocence, young Maria Antonia was plunged into the severe rigor of court life, an arena where lessons in etiquette fused with the gritty art of diplomacy. In cavernous halls lined with brooding portraits of long-dead emperors, she sat at a miniature desk, poring over state decrees, her eyes fixed on the purposeful strides of courtiers who moved like predatory forces. Her mother, Empress Maria Theresa, an awe-inspiring figure swathed in richly embroidered velvets, wielding authority like a sharpened blade, molded her children with a relentless precision that echoed the empire's fierce expansion. Within the pulsating grandeur of Vienna's court, where every glint of silverware and the whisper of satin gowns resonated with a promise of opulence, life was an unforgiving dance of high stakes and unyielding strategy. Education was not a mere indulgence, but a crucible in which future dominions were forged. While her older siblings mastered the artful cadences of refined French conversation and the delicate strains of violin concertos, Maria Antonia's lessons were a precarious tightrope walk. Her trembling fingers occasionally faltered on the harpsichord keys during intense sessions with the famed tutor Christoph Willibald Gluck, and her initial stumbles with French elocution were like hesitant steps into a majestic, albeit elusive, performance. Yet, the courtiers watched with fierce satisfaction as the radiant charm in her determined smile and the uncanny grace in her posture glimmered, qualities that shone with a brilliance far surpassing mere scholarly merit in the brutal game of alliances. In the nerve center of a vast empire, where the fervent whispers of Enlightenment fervor collided with the weighty chains of tradition, Marie Antonia's world was a tapestry of interwoven destinies and perilous gambits. As she glided over the polished floors of Schönbrunn Palace, her footsteps echoing with the silent promise of power against cold stone, she was swallowed by an atmosphere thick with intellectual revolution and covert political machinations. Every mirrored ballroom and shadowed corridor vibrated with fervent debates on philosophy and the restless undercurrents of colonial ambition. Even as the intense strains of a string quartet tore through the air during a royal soiree, the furtive, calculated glances exchanged by her mother's most trusted advisors whispered of clandestine strategies designed to cement Habsburg supremacy across volatile alliances. In this dominion, where every handshake and carefully measured nod was imbued with the weight of destiny, the infant Maria Antonia was already methodically positioned, like a potent pawn in a grand, ruthless game of chess, primed for decisive, history-altering moves that would shatter the confines of her gilded beginnings. Chapter 2. The Strategic Marriage. By the time Maria Antonia burst into her teenage years, her fate had already been brutally charted through a labyrinth of borders and treaties. The War of the Austrian Succession and the 7 Years' War had upended European alliances like a violent reshuffle of chess pieces, leaving her mother, Maria Theresa, hell-bent on clinching peace through a relentless, high-stakes game of diplomacy. To the Empress, the marriage of her daughter was no mere union, but a weapon as decisive as a well-placed battalion, a cold, calculated move on the volatile chessboard of 18th century geopolitics. The alliance between Austria and France, once bitter adversaries, was now a fragile, trembling flower struggling to bloom in the dark shadow of their turbulent past. The imminent marriage of an Austrian archduchess to the future King of France was designed to be its most vivid, defiant blossom. France, still seething from the raw wounds of recent military disasters and drowning under crippling financial woes, craved stability in its diplomatic dealings. Austria, for its part, hungered for the validation and security that could fuel its sweeping reforms and territorial ambitions. This union was the single thread meant to stitch together two empires, fraying under the oppressive weight of history. In this intricate tapestry of power, Maria Antonia was far more than a naive girl with dreams. She was a vital needle destined to carve out the future of nations. At the tender age of 14, she set off on a heavy, mournful journey from Vienna, a solemn, almost macabre procession marking her harsh passage across Europe. This odyssey tore away her very Austrian identity as she was forcefully grafted onto French soil. As her carriage thundered across the Rhine in April 1770, a stark, transformative ceremony awaited her, a ruthless ritual where every vestige of her Austrian self was to be obliterated. Her familiar clothing was ruthlessly swapped for foreign, ostentatious French garments, her trusted attendants replaced without mercy, and even her name was brutally rebranded as Marie Antoinette. This shedding of identity was no trivial formality. It was a cold, meticulously orchestrated rebirth imposed by the unyielding hand of political necessity, a stark, painful rite that encapsulated the immense cost of forging a fragile alliance. The image of a rose being violently uprooted from one garden and planted in another sears the essence of this brutal transformation. Marie Antoinette, torn from the comforting embrace of her homeland, was forced to struggle to thrive in the bewildering, opulent maze of Versailles, a palace as dazzling as it was suffocating. Her destiny was no longer her own to command. It was a relentless imposition, intertwined with the volatile ambitions of Bourbon-Habsburg diplomacy. In this devastating exchange, her personal hopes and desires withered, swallowed whole by a relentless tide of national imperatives. Chapter 3. Arrival at Versailles. Versailles, with its endless maze of manicured gardens and decadent halls, towered like a colossal jeweled titan, its blinding golden gates flung wide like a ravenous maw ready to engulf all who dared breach its merciless embrace, The palace pulsed with a radiant, almost brutal splendor, every wall murmuring dark, forbidden secrets of overwhelming power and raw ambition. For Marie Antoinette, it was no stage merely for performance. It was a dazzling arena of fierce intrigue and an opulent prison of suffocating expectation, where each subtle nod carried seismic force and every deliberate pause sent shockwaves through its labyrinthine corridors of influence. Her arrival in May 1770 erupted in an explosive parade of unmatched grandeur, a cavalcade of gleaming carriages and fawning courtiers converging on the cobblestone avenues, their sumptuous velvet and lustrous silk ablaze under the scorching afternoon sun. Yet, beneath ceilings adorned with epic mythological battles, a far more ruthless reality lay in wait, one that the dazzling ceremony could scarcely conceal. The court of Versailles was a brutal coliseum of relentless etiquette, a realm where pristine appearances were enforced with an iron fist and raw, unapologetic power lurked behind every meticulously practiced smile and imposed bow. In this savage theater, status was quantified by the sumptuous richness of brocaded gowns and the precise, almost mechanical curtsies each subject performed. Thrust into this merciless performance without a single rehearsal, Marie Antoinette, despite her illustrious lineage, found herself a beleaguered outsider, her every gesture reduced to an enigma subject to ruthless scrutiny. From the faintest tilt of her head to the painstakingly styled curls of her powdered hair, she was not merely watched but violently dissected, every movement parsed as though it were a cryptic symbol desperate to be decoded. The young Dauphine was immediately besieged by relentless challenges. Her marriage to Louis Auguste, a painfully timid soul with an almost obsessive penchant for hunting and the delicate art of crafting locks, languished in a void of unfulfilled passion for years. That stark absence of intimacy festered into a yawning chasm where vicious whispers, mounting anxieties, and ruthless political pressures collided. In a court intoxicated by scandal and venomous gossip, the couple's failure to produce an heir swiftly morphed Marie Antoinette from a symbol of diplomatic alliance into a scorned figure, ferociously targeted by ridicule and bitter speculation. Yet Versailles was not merely a crucible of cruelty, it was a confounding labyrinth of perilous rituals. Its ancient traditions, steeped in history yet maddeningly divorced from practicality, demanded a brutal, swift adaptation. Thrust into this relentless ballet as a mere teenager, Marie Antoinette struggled to merge her austere Austrian sensibilities with the harsh, blood-hungry choreography of French court life. She was forced to mesmerize the aristocracy, seduce the fickle hearts of the people, and produce an heir, all while navigating a society that ticked like a time bomb, ready to shatter her every illusion. Imagine being yanked onto a stage where a play, performed for centuries, raged on in a maelstrom of chaos, and being ordered to assume the lead role without even a hint of rehearsal. That was Marie Antoinette's brutal induction into France. Forced to memorize her lines in the excruciating immediacy of live performance, she improvised with dazzling yet strained smiles, ostentatious extravagance, and an instinctive charisma that came at the crushing cost of deeper understanding. Her early missteps, born from a tumult of youthful inexperience and acute disorientation, seeded the public's eventual violent disillusionment, a vicious cycle where the court's sky-high expectations were matched only by its ravenous hunger for disappointment, a shadow that would dog her every step throughout her tumultuous reign. Extra chapter: The Glimmer of Connection. The vast, echoing chambers of Versailles, despite their suffocating grandeur, often felt like a gilded cage to Marie Antoinette. Yet, amidst the endless rituals and watchful eyes, there were stolen moments, fragile as spun glass, that hinted at a connection beyond the cold dictates of political alliance. One evening, after a particularly tedious state dinner, she found herself lingering in the Salon des Glaces, the candlelight dancing across the hundreds of mirrors, multiplying her image into an ethereal shimmer. Her gown, a whisper of pale rose silk, clung to her slender form, the low neckline revealing the delicate curve of her collarbone, a landscape of ivory kissed by the soft glow. Her unbound hair, the color of spun moonlight, cascaded over her shoulders, each strand catching the light like a filament of desire. She turned and found Louis Auguste standing hesitantly in the doorway. He was not a man of grand pronouncements or sweeping gestures. His gaze, often downcast, now lifted to her, and for a fleeting moment, Marie Antoinette saw past the awkwardness, the shyness, to a flicker of something akin to admiration. His eyes, the color of a stormy sea, seemed to linger on the delicate swell of her breast, a silent acknowledgement of the burgeoning woman beneath the layers of royal obligation. A blush, faint as the first hint of dawn, bloomed on her cheeks. He spoke, his voice a low murmur that barely disturbed the silence, about a new mechanism he had been working on in his private study, a testament to his quiet passions. As he described the intricate workings, his hands moved with an unexpected grace, and Marie Antoinette found herself drawn not just to his words, but to the earnestness in his expression, the unguarded enthusiasm that momentarily banished his usual reserve. Another time, during a private music recital in her apartments, Marie Antoinette played the harp. The melody, a melancholic French air, filled the room, her slender fingers dancing across the strings. As she leaned into the instrument, the fabric of her gown tightened across her back, emphasizing the delicate arch of her spine. Louis Auguste sat nearby, his gaze fixed on her, a subtle tension in the air. When her eyes met his across the polished wood of the harp, there was a shared breath, a silent understanding that transcended the formal constraints of their roles. In that moment, the music seemed to weave a fragile thread of intimacy between them. Later, during a moonlit stroll in the private gardens of the Petit Trianon, a secluded haven she was beginning to claim as her own, their hands brushed accidentally. The briefest of contacts, yet it sent a tremor through Marie Antoinette. She drew her hand away quickly, but the lingering warmth on her skin felt significant. Louis Auguste, too, seemed affected, his usual stammer more pronounced as he spoke of the nightingales singing in the shadows. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and unspoken desires. One sweltering summer evening, confined to her chambers with a light fever, Marie Antoinette found Louis Auguste had brought her a posy of freshly picked wildflowers from the gardens. His thoughtfulness, so unexpected, touched her deeply. As he leaned over her, placing the delicate blooms on her bedside table, his hand brushed her forehead. His touch was hesitant, yet it lingered for a fraction of a second longer than necessary, a silent question hanging in the air. Marie Antoinette, her skin flushed not just from the fever, felt a stirring within her, a nascent awareness of him as more than just her politically assigned husband. These were not grand, passionate encounters, but rather stolen glances, hesitant touches, and moments of shared vulnerability that hinted at a slow, tentative blossoming of something more profound beneath the surface of their arranged union. The seeds of desire, though subtly sown, were beginning to take root in the fertile ground of their shared isolation within the opulent prison of Versailles. Chapter 4. Becoming the Dauphine. As the relentless march of time progressed, Marie Antoinette burst forth from the confines of a mere court puppet, seizing her destiny as a contentious and formidable force. No longer confined to the role of Dauphine, destined solely to secure the Bourbon lineage and embody the regal virtues of a future queen, she charted a daring path that blurred duty with rebellion. With unchecked passion, she dived into the world of high fashion and extravagant entertainment, igniting uproar among the traditionalists while setting the courtiers aflame with admiration. Her gravity-defying hairstyles erupted like towering monuments of curls and feathers, while her gowns, crafted from the most opulent fabrics and embellished with intricate lace and scintillating jewels, shimmered with an intensity that could outshine the fiercest blaze under candlelight. At the secret haven of the Petit Trianon, she transformed her private retreat into a stage for intimate gatherings where raucous laughter and stirring music rebelled against the stifling conventions of her time, revealing both her fierce identity and deep vulnerabilities. Yet her ardent efforts to integrate into French society were ruthlessly undermined by the relentless scorn of her foreign origins. To the Parisian public and the covetous conservative aristocracy, she remained forever branded as l'Autrichienne, an epithet steeped in vitriolic contempt and xenophobic disdain. Every act of kindness, every lavish donation, was overshadowed by a venomous narrative, that of a frivolous, extravagant foreign queen recklessly squandering France's precious resources while its people starved. Undeterred by the mounting opposition, Marie Antoinette intermittently radiated moments of fervent grace and tactical adaptability. She forged intimate bonds, most notably with the enchanting Duchesse de Polignac, an alliance that became both her confidant and her shield. In the realms of music and theater, she found a fierce and soulful escape. Her impassioned harp performances and eager attendance at dramatic spectacles offering brief reprieves from the suffocating demands of her role. Yet these personal sanctuaries were twisted by her detractors into grotesque visions of excess, dismissed as mere indulgences rather than vital acts of resistance. Over time, the political alliance of her marriage with Louis Auguste evolved into a union infused with genuine affection. The fiery birth of their first child in 1778 was a watershed moment, temporarily elevating her status as the light of hope within the royal family. The arrival of a dauphin further cemented her precarious position amidst swirling intrigue. Still, criticism clung to her like an ever-lengthening shadow, darkening her every extravagant misstep and bold decision. Taking on the title of Dauphine, Marie Antoinette inherited far more than ceremonial duties. She accepted an ancient burden wrought by centuries of expectation and despair. The already weakening French monarchy, suffocated under the weight of crumbling traditions and soaring debts, demanded of her the unthinkable, to be both a steadfast symbol of continuity and a revolutionary spark. There she stood, at the tumultuous crossroads of history, trapped between the decaying legacy of a bygone order and the fierce, impending storm of revolution that loomed ever larger on the horizon. Looking at Marie Antoinette's early life through a Judeo-Christian lens, we see a young woman thrust into a world where personal desires were secondary to dynastic duty. While her upbringing emphasized discipline and the importance of her role, the sheer opulence and the morally ambiguous nature of courtly power presented significant ethical challenges. We can learn from this the importance of grounding ourselves in core values, even amidst overwhelming external pressures. Marie Antoinette's initial struggles highlight how easily one can be swept away by extravagance and lose sight of the needs of the wider community. The practical lesson here is the vital need for self-awareness and a conscious effort to maintain humility and empathy, regardless of one's position or privilege. Her story, even in its early chapters, serves as a potent reminder that true worth lies not in gilded cages, but in the character we build within them. Don't let Marie Antoinette's story end here. Her journey from Austrian princess to the heart of the French court is just beginning, and trust us, the drama is only going to intensify. Your engagement is crucial to us in bringing these incredible historical narratives to life. So, if you're ready to witness the unfolding of one of history's most captivating and controversial figures, hit that subscribe button now. Ring the notification bell so you won't miss a single revelation. Like this video, share it with fellow history buffs, and tell us in the comments what has captivated you the most so far. Your support fuels our passion, and be sure to explore our other videos for more fascinating dives into the past. The next chapter awaits. Are you ready?